The message from Earth. The stars were calm, as they always were. Galactic ships floated like silver fish in space, glowing under the light of distant suns. And in the middle of this silence, the Empire moved, proud and without fear. They had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Planet after planet had bowed to their power. They had weapons that could erase moons, fleets that could darken skies. And now they looked at Earth, a small blue planet at the edge of a forgotten solar system. Admiral Zelvar stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Varkian. He stared at Earth through the main viewing screen, his eyes cold and calculating. To think this little world dared send a message to us, he said, voice filled with pride. The officers around him laughed. They said, "Do not enter our orbit," one of them repeated, mocking the message. It's cute, they think they have a choice. The message had come in a strange frequency, not standard galactic code, and it was only one sentence. You are not welcome. Leave our sky. No origin point, no signature, just a calm human voice. It wasn't even angry. It was still, too still. But the Empire didn't care. They had faced warlords, hive queens, and black hole beasts. Earth was just a backwater planet with no known space defense. Their records showed it had once reached its own moon, but that was thousands of years ago. Then Earth went silent, completely. No transmissions, no trade, no technology shared. Many believed the planet had fallen into darkness. Some believed it had died. But now, after so long, Earth spoke again and warned the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Still, the command came quickly from the throne world. Send the fleet to Earth. Admiral Zelvar obeyed without hesitation. As the Varkian and its support ships approached the orbit of Earth, strange things began to happen. The sensors started to fail. Satellites blinked and disappeared, and the star charts began showing slight shifts in gravity, as if space itself was bending. Zelvar frowned. "Check for cloaked ships," he ordered. "None detected, Admiral," his officer replied, nervously. "Then why does it feel like something is watching us?" he muttered. Deep below in Earth's ocean, something stirred. A signal was sent, not by hand, not by machine, but by memory. It traveled through water, air, and space, and reached the heart of the Empire's ship. Every screen on every ship suddenly turned black. Then, white letters appeared. You were warned. A silence fell across the fleet. Then came a sound, low and deep, like a storm under the sea. The Empire's fleet had never heard anything like it. Some described it later as a whisper made of thunder. Zelvar stepped back, confused. "What is that?" he asked, but no one answered. Far above the Earth, a shape appeared. It wasn't a ship or a weapon. It was like space had torn itself open. From the tier, a single object came out. It looked like a small human-made probe, maybe centuries old, but it moved with impossible speed, circling the flagship in seconds. Then it stopped, floated before the viewing screen, and spoke. "Leave," it said in that same calm human voice. "This is your final warning." The officers froze. Weapons were armed, shields raised. But before any order was given, one of the escort ships exploded. No beam, no blast, just silence. And then destruction. Zelvar screamed, "Retreat!" But it was too late. The space around them began to twist, turning red, then black. The fleet was being pulled not by gravity, but by force unknown. Down on Earth, a little girl stood in a field. Watching the sky, she smiled. "It's starting," she whispered. Beside her, an old man nodded slowly. "They forgot who we are," he said, "but they will remember now." In the distance, the sky cracked again, and the stars began to blink out, one by one. Asterisk, the Empire arrives. The stars above Earth were no longer calm. They shimmered strangely, as if space itself was holding its breath. The Galactic Empire's fleet hovered above the planet, powerful and proud, but now Doubt had started to spread like poison. Admiral Zelvar stood still on the bridge of the Varkian. His fists were clenched, his jaw tight. They had lost one of their ships without warning, without reason. And now the ancient probe floated silently in front of them. Its voice still echoed in his ears. "Leave. This is your final warning." "No machine talks to the Empire like that," he growled. "Destroy it," he ordered. Weapons locked, energy charged, and in one breathless second fired. But the probe did not move. Instead, the beam of plasma passed right through it. It shimmered for a moment, then vanished like smoke. All systems on the ship began to flicker. Screens glitched, lights dimmed, and engines hummed strangely. "Admiral, we're being scanned," said the chief technician. "By what, Zelvar?" Snapped. I don't know," the man replied. "It's like the scan is coming from everywhere." A junior officer gasped, pointing at the data feed. "Sir, the planet's magnetic field, it's changing shape." The crew stared at the screen. The Earth's magnetic field wasn't just reacting, it was reaching. Lines of energy twisted toward the fleet like fingers in the dark. Back on Earth, underground beneath a mountain range, a machine woke up. It had no name, only a task that had waited centuries. It blinked once, then reached into orbit with Invisible. Force. In the Empire's fleet, panic started to rise. Ships began reporting strange gravity shifts. Time lag in communications. One pilot shouted, "Sir, I can see another me in my cockpit." His voice trembled. "Like a shadow of myself, but it's ahead of me." The Admiral slammed his hand on the control panel. "This is a trick," he said. "A mind weapon. Psychic interference block." But there was no weapon, no enemy ship, no blast, no beam. Only Earth, still quiet, still blue. Still spinning like any normal planet. And yet, the fleet felt like it was being watched by something older than stars. Suddenly, the communication panel blinked. A video opened by itself, uninvited. A face appeared. A human woman, mid-30s. Brown skin, silver eyes. She wore no armor, no uniform, only a simple white robe. She looked calm, then she spoke. "You do not belong here," she said. Her voice was soft but firm. "This sky remembers everything." Admiral Zelvar stepped forward. "Who are you?" She did not answer. Instead, her eyes glowed brighter, and behind her, shapes appeared giant. Machines with wings made of light. They weren't standing in a room, but in a field of stars. "You will return to your empire," she said, "or it will fall with you." The screen went black. No signal, no trace. The bridge fell silent. For the first time in his life, Zelvar felt fear. He turned to his second in command. "What is this place?" he whispered. The officer shook his head. "I think it's not just Earth," he said. "I think it's something buried inside Earth." Elsewhere in the fleet, engineers worked frantically. The engines would not respond. Shields rose and fell without command. One ship turned by itself, slowly drifting toward the planet without power. Then something impossible happened. The ship disappeared, not exploded, not attacked, just vanished in a flash of cold white light. Not even debris remained. On the Varkian, sensors screamed. "Spatial fold detected," said the system. "What does that mean?" Zelvar shouted. "It means," the tech whispered, "space around Earth is folding like paper." Zelvar stared at the planet, blue, green, and full of life. But it was no longer just a world. It was a lock, and something inside was turning the key. He gave a new order, voice shaking. "Prepare the fleet to fire. All weapons. Full power." A command echoed through the ships. Energy built up. Lights glowed. Red, and targets locked on Earth. But as the countdown reached 1, all weapons shut down. Each ship went completely dark. Then came a sound, low and ancient, like the voice of the planet itself. "Enough," it said. From the North Pole of Earth, a column of light shot into space. It reached high, past the ships, touching the edge of the fleet. Where the light passed, time slowed, stars blinked slower, movement crawled, and silence swallowed all sound. The Empire had arrived, but they were not the ones in control anymore. Asterisk. The first strike the Empire had come to Earth with power and pride. They expected surrender or fear or silence. But what they got was something else, something they did not understand, something they could not stop. Above the Earth, the mighty fleet floated like sleeping giants. But now, many of those giants were silent, powered off, drifting, helpless. Admiral Zelvar paced on the bridge of the Varkian. He stared at the dead control panels, the blinking emergency lights, the silent crew. "Why aren't our weapons working?" he asked again. No one could answer. The techs tried to restart systems. The engineers tried to trace the power drain, but everything led to one strange result. "The source is Earth," the lead engineer said. "Earth is shutting us down. From orbit." "That's impossible," Zelvar barked. "It's not even a Type 2 civilization." But the data didn't lie. Earth was doing something no other world had ever done. Back in the Empire's command ship, the officers debated. Some wanted to retreat, others wanted to wait. But a few wanted blood. "They dare mock us," Commander Vale hissed. "They took 2 of our ships without firing a shot," she slammed, her fist down. "Let's give them a warning of our own." Zelvar hesitated, but pride won. "Fire 1 pulse blast," he said. "Target a desert zone, no cities." They thought it was fair. A show of strength, not war. A warning, not destruction. The command was given. 1 ship powered up a single plasma cannon. It glowed bright, aimed at the empty land below, and fired. A blue beam raced toward Earth, burning through clouds, slicing the sky. Then just before it hit the ground, it stopped. The beam froze in midair, hanging like a solid rod of light. Then it bent, slowly, turning away from the ground, and curled back upward, back toward the ship that fired it. "Shut it down," screamed the gunnery chief, but it was too late. The light slammed back into the ship's side, and in one flash, the vessel crumbled into glowing dust. No fire, no explosion, just light and silence. Zelvar stared in disbelief. "We just hit ourselves," he whispered. "No," the technician replied. Earth reflected it like a mirror. For the first time in galactic history, a weapon had been turned back perfectly. It should have been impossible, but Earth did it. Back on the planet, deep under the Atlantic Ocean, a chamber opened. Inside it, something old stirred. It wasn't human, not anymore. It was built by humans long ago, before history was written. A machine of memory, of judgment, of defense. It blinked, and in that blink, 10 more Empire ships lost power, one by one. They spun out of orbit and began to fall toward Earth. The planet didn't shoot them. It just let gravity do the work. The ships crashed into the oceans, the forests, the ice. No one survived, Admiral. Zelvar's face turned pale. "This is war," he whispered. "No," said a voice behind him. Everyone turned. A tall man stood in the middle of the bridge. He wore a black coat, no helmet, no suit. No one saw him enter. No alarm had sounded. He was just there. "Who are you?" Zelvar demanded. The man looked at him calmly. "I am from Earth," he said, "but not from your time." The crew raised weapons, but nothing happened. Their guns wouldn't fire. Their armor systems shut down. "I'm here to deliver a message," the man continued. "You were warned." He looked out the window toward Earth. "And you refused to listen. What does Earth want?" Zelvar asked. The man smiled sadly. "Not war," he said. "Only peace." "Then why are you attacking us?" Zelvar shouted. The man shook his head. "You attacked first," he said. "You entered our sky, armed and proud. You fired at our world and called it mercy." He paused, then added, "We don't want to kill you, but we will. Protect what is ours." With that, he vanished. No flash, no light, no sound. He was simply gone. Outside the ship, the stars began to change. One by one, they shifted position. Constellations moved, lights bent, and space twisted. The Empire's fleet watched in terror. They realized they were no longer in normal space. Earth had pulled them into something else, a folded zone of altered physics. And then Earth spoke again. Across every ship, every channel, one voice said, "This is not a war. It is a lesson." Asterisk Earth's hidden past. The Empire's fleet drifted silently in orbit. Their pride was wounded, their fear rising. Ships were either powerless or missing, and nothing made sense anymore. They had come expecting a weak planet, but what they found was a world that knew how to fight without lifting a single weapon. And now, the whispers had begun. Inside the Empire's intelligence ship Nartheus, a secret meeting took place. Commander Vale stood before a circle of high officers, her hands shaking slightly. "I accessed locked archives," she said. "From the First Age." Everyone looked at her in confusion. "The First Age," someone repeated. "That was more than 10,000 years ago." Vale nodded. "Yes, and that's when Earth last appeared in galactic records." She tapped a screen, and old symbols lit up. They were not standard galactic code. They were ancient, forgotten except by a few historians. "The last time Earth made contact with the galaxy," she said, "it ended the Great War." Her voice lowered. "But not by joining it." The officers leaned in. "They didn't fight," Vale said. "They ended the war by erasing every side's strongest weapon. Overnight, every major fleet lost its main reactor cores. All at once, with no trace," someone scoffed. "That's just legend." Vale stared back coldly. "Then why is it happening again?" Silence followed. Meanwhile, deep below Earth's surface, machines moved. Not new machines, old ones, older than human memory. They were built during Earth's silent age, when no one was watching, in a massive chamber under the ice. A single machine hummed to life. Its body was half metal, half crystal. Its eyes were like stars. It looked up, through miles of rock, straight at the orbiting fleet. Back on the Varkian, Admiral Zelvar stood at the viewing window. He was no longer angry. Now he was afraid. "What if this isn't just Earth?" he whispered. "What if Earth is hiding something bigger?" He called his data officer. "Pull up the oldest record of Earth." The officer frowned. "It's restricted by the Council." "Override it," Zelvar growled. They cracked into the core archive. The screen flashed red and opened a single file. It showed a message. Not a video, just words. Project Silence. "Do not approach. Do not observe. Do not interfere." Zelvar blinked. "This is from the Council's top-level security." He scrolled further. There was an old star map, but something was strange. Earth's solar system wasn't marked as Sol. It was labeled as Origin Point Zero. "What is this?" he asked. Then the final line made his hands go cold. Earth was sealed for the safety of the galaxy. Before he could react, alarms screamed across the ship. A new signal had been detected, but it wasn't coming from space. It was coming from time. The signal wasn't traveling through the galaxy. It was echoing forward. From the past, all ships picked it up, a wave of energy that felt like memory itself. Crew members began to see things. One pilot screamed, "I'm seeing stars that don't exist anymore." Another said, "I hear voices from thousands of years ago." They were reliving Earth's past, and it was overwhelming. Back on the planet, the little girl in the field looked up again. Beside her, the old man smiled. "They're starting to remember." He said, the girl asked, "Do they know who?" "We are now." "Not yet," the man replied, "but they're close." He touched the ground, and golden patterns glowed beneath the soil. The patterns stretched for miles. They were not just decorations, they were keys. Keys to something buried deep inside the earth. At the same time, the Empire's historian sent a final warning to Zelvar. I decrypted the last part of the old file, she said. It says Earth is not a planet. Zelvar frowned. What is it then? The screen blinked once, and then displayed a single word, vault. The counterattack the Galactic Empire came to conquer. Now they were trying to survive. Above Earth, the once mighty fleet floated like broken toys, their weapons silenced, their pride shattered. Admiral Zelvar stood frozen in the center of the Varkian's bridge. His hands trembled. His voice was gone. He had just seen the report. Earth was not just a planet. It was a vault. Not a vault for treasure. Not for weapons, but for something far worse knowledge. And now, that knowledge had awakened. The stars above Earth were no longer stars. One by one they blinked out. Not from destruction, but from folding. Space itself was changing shape. In the Empire's second fleet, 300 ships arrived from the nearby sector. They had received a distress call, part signal, part scream. They saw the damage, the missing ships, the twisted space, and yet they did not retreat. Their orders were clear: take Earth. They powered up weapons, charged shields, and aimed at the planet. But before they could fire, time stopped. Just for a second. Just long enough to feel it, and then they fell. Every ship, every engine, every light, off, dead, not destroyed, deactivated. In the silence, Earth responded. Not with missiles, not with lasers, but with thought. From the South Pole, a ring of blue light rose into the sky. It looked like a shield, but it was more. It was a signal broadcast in frequencies no one had used in 10,000 years. Across the fleet, strange things began to happen. Crew members couldn't move. Some began hearing voices in their minds. Others saw symbols floating in the airhold. Human letters glowing in front of their eyes. It wasn't an attack. It was a message. You are in our sky, without permission live, but the Empire had gone too far. They fired anyway. 5 ships broke formation and launched energy pulses. At Earth, they didn't reach. Midway, the energy pulses stopped, not blocked, absorbed. The sky turned dark. A shadow moved over the fleet, something huge, unseen before. It wasn't a ship, it was a shell, a layer around Earth, invisible until now. Built not from metal, but from memory, the Empire watched in horror as their own weapons were launched. Back at them, not just reflected, but enhanced. Each energy pulse returned with 10 times the force. 3 ships were erased instantly. Panic swept the fleet. Ships scattered, broke ranks, ran, but there was nowhere to run. Space folded again. The stars ahead now pointed backward. The laws of travel no longer worked. On the Varkian, Admiral Zelvar gave the last order he could think of. Retreat, full warp, any direction. But the navigator shook his head. There's no escape route, he said. Earth is in control of the jump paths. They were trapped, not by weapons, but by intelligence. Far below, inside Earth's fault, the final lock opened. The core of the planet pulsed once, and then released something ancient. Not a person, not a machine, but an idea. A living intelligence stored for ages. Born in the early days of humanity, it rose into orbit, a glowing sphere of shifting light. No face, no voice, only presence, all ships. Saw it, even those without power, and it spoke without words. You were warned. Some crew dropped to their knees. Others cried. Some went silent. The message was not one of hate. It was of sorrow, like a parent scolding a reckless child. Then the final strike came, not to kill, but to remove. Each ship was lifted slowly, moved away from orbit by invisible force, spun, turned, pushed, and dropped lightly outside the solar system. Only one message followed: do not return. The second fleet, now shaken, turned away. No one dared speak. No one dared fire. And back on Earth, the girl in the field looked up. She turned to the old man beside her. Was that enough? She asked. For now, he replied. The wind moved through the grass. Above them, the sky returned to normal, blue, quiet, peaceful, with the stars. They remembered what happened. Empire's last stand, the Empire had failed. Their first fleet had vanished. Their second had been thrown across the stars like dust in wind. But still, they could not accept defeat. Not to Earth, not to a world they had once laughed at. On the throne world of Calderan, the High Council gathered in fear. The Empress sat at the center, her face pale, her voice cold. "They embarrassed us," she said. "They challenged the authority of the galaxy." Advisors argued. Some wanted to leave Earth alone. Others demanded full destruction. One word was repeated again and again: Starbreaker. The Starbreaker was the Empire's darkest weapon, not a missile, not a bomb. It was a tear in reality itself, a machine that collapsed a star into nothing, pulling entire systems with it. It had never been used, but now it was being activated, far away in deep space. The weapon began to move, shaped like a black spear. The size of a small moon, it traveled faster than any ship, heading straight for Earth. On the Varkian, Admiral Zelvar, still alive and exiled to the outer edge of the solar system, received the signal. His heart sank. "They're going to destroy Earth," he whispered. "They'll destroy everything in this sector." Back on Earth, the vault pulsed again. It had sensed the incoming danger before any ship could detect it. Inside the planet, the old systems began to shift. Pieces of the Earth's history unlocked. Pieces that had been sleeping. The girl in the field looked to the sky. "It's coming," she said. The old man beside her nodded. "Yes," he said. "And now they will see who we really are." The vault sent out a signal not into space, but into the deep past. It reached into the memory of time, calling back something long forgotten. Above Earth, space cracked again. A spiral of light opened like a wound, and from it came shapes vast, strange, glowing, ships that didn't use metal, ships that looked like they were made of thought. They weren't built, they were remembered. The Starbreaker approached. Every alarm in the galaxy lit up. Civilizations held their breath. Even the far corners of the Empire watched, waiting. The weapon locked onto Earth. Its systems began counting down. It needed only 1 second to erase the planet. But just before it fired, time paused. Not for Earth, not for the vault, but for the weapon itself. Its own systems froze. Its sensors showed something impossible. A second Earth, not beside the first, but beneath it. The vault had split dimensions. And now Earth existed in 2 states, one to be targeted, and one to survive. The Starbreaker became confused. Its core stuttered. Trying to choose, that's when the counterstrike began. Earth did not fire lasers. It did not send missiles. Instead, it sent information. A beam of memory shot from the vault into the heart of the Starbreaker. It wasn't data. It was identity. The weapon began to remember. It remembered who made it. It remembered why it was built, and it remembered who Earth really was. The weapon shut down, not because it was destroyed, but because it chose to stop on. The Varkian, Admiral Zelvar, cried out, "The weapon's offline." The crew stared at the screen and saw the impossible. The Starbreaker turned and flew back the way it came. Earth had done something no one believed could be done. It had made a weapon feel shame. Back on Calderan, the Empress stood silent as the message arrived. It was simple. Just one line: "Earth has spoken. We will not repeat ourselves." Her council fell into chaos. Some called for surrender. Others whispered of exile. But one thing was clear. The Empire was no longer in control. In the field, the little girl watched the stars. She pointed to the sky. "They're leaving," she said. The old man smiled. "Yes," he replied. "For now." And behind them, the ground pulsed once more, as if the planet had taken a breath, a deep, old breath, and gone back to sleep.